Hey boys and girls, so it's Mrs. Smith, and as you can see, I'm not here today because I'm not feeling too great. And so what I need for you to do is make sure that you have your Unit 7 packet, page 5 and 6 out, and we're going to start with page 5 for our lesson today. Page 5 is just reviewing those long division steps, because remember, long division is our only strategy that we have to use when we are dividing decimals. So we had the long family, we had the long division family. So we have the dad, and his job is to divide. Then we had the mom. Her job was to multiply. We had the sister. Her job was to subtract. And then we had the brother, and his job was to bring down the next number. And then we had Rover, who repeated the steps or remainder. But remember, in decimal division, we're not going to have a remainder. We're going to repeat the process until we end with no remainder. So pause this video, make sure your page 5 looks like my page 5. And when you're ready, go ahead and press play. All right, so we're going to turn the page and we're going to talk about what does that look like? What does long division look like when we are dividing decimals with a whole number? So here is our problem. We have 6 54 divided by 12. So the first thing it says to do is to set up your equation. Remember, if the problem is written left to right without a division house, we have to set up our problem with a division house. And remember, the first number you see when it's written that way is the one that goes in the house, or the dividend. When it says house, we really mean dividend. So the second thing you have to do so that you don't forget the decimal is rocket your decimal straight up. We're going to raise it to the roof. So I am going to raise my decimal to the roof, just like that. So step 3 says now to do the steps along division. So I'm just going to put them up here. Just to remind me, it's divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. And I'm just going to do the symbols. And then we have repeat. All right. So before I even start to solve this problem, I see that my divisor is 12. Now, I'm not too sure about my 12s, so I'm going to go ahead and write my facts of 12 down the side of my page. So 12 times 1 is 12, times 2 is 24, times 3 is 36, times 4 is 48, times 5 is 60, times 7 is 72, times 6 is 72, times 7 is 84, times 8, 5, 6, 7, 8 is 96, and times 9 is 108. All right, so remember, we only go to the ninth multiple because we can only put a single digit up at the top. So now I'm ready to divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. So the first thing that I also have to remember is that if I have 3 digits in my dividend, I must have 3 digits in my quotient. So 12 cannot divide into 6. So that would be, let's not forget about 0. So that would be 0. 0 times 12 is 0. I divided, I have multiplied, now I'm subtracting, and 6 minus 0 is 6. And now I'm going to bring down my 5. Looking at my multiples of 12, I see that 6 times 5 gets me close to 65. So I'm going to put the 5 above the 5 that I dropped down. And 12 times 5 is 60. I've divided, I've multiplied, and now I'm subtracting. 65 minus 60 is 5. And now I'm going to bring down my 4. 12 times 1, 2, 3, 4 gets me close to 54. And that would be 48. Now I'm going to subtract, and I have to do some regrouping. 14, that would be 6. Now at this point, I have no more numbers in my dividend. But remember, I said we don't like to have remainders in decimal division. So step number 4, this is important, I'm going to star it. It says, if there is a remainder, add a 0 to your dividend and bring it down and continue dividing. So this is why we can't do partial quotient, because we actually have to add a number to our dividend. So I'm going to annex or add a 0, and then I'm going to bring it down, and I am going to now have 60. Well, I know 12 times 5 is 60, and so therefore 5 times 12 is 60. I subtract, and now I'm left with 0. The annexing or adding a 0 is why we have to use the long division strategy. And then step 5, you can check your work. You can multiply your divisor times your quotient, and then it should equal your dividend. So I'm just going to do this traditional old school algorithm way. And I'm going to treat it as if this was 545 by moving the decimal to the right 3 spaces times 12. 5 times 2 is 10. Add the 1. 2 times 4 is 8 plus 1 is 9. And then 2 times 5 is 10. I'm done multiplying by the 2, so I'm going to put a 0 right here. And now I'm going to multiply by the 10 or the 1. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 5 is 5. I'm going to add it all up. 0, 14, 5, and then 6. So 65, 40. Well, that matches what's in there. But remember, when I remove my decimal from multiplication, I have to add it back in. I moved it a total of 3 times. So I have to move it a total of 3 times right here. And if you look, 6.540 matches my dividend in my problem. That is the notes for dividing decimals in whole numbers. What I like for you to do now is pause this video, put your note page away, and take out your math journal. When you are ready to join me for my teacher-led lesson, go ahead and press play. So pause the video now, put your notes away, get your math journal out to a clean page. All right, friends, so math journal time. All right, so I got a clean page, all right, and I'm not going to use it traditionally the way that it is right here. I'm actually going to turn my notebook sideways, like this, all right, and at the top, I'm going to put today's date, which is 2/28/23. And it's titled Decimal Division Part 1, because there's 2 parts. All right. And then on the side here where I have this big, large margin, I think I'm going to go ahead and write those long division steps. So first I'm going to start with D. and D stands for divide. Then I'm going to go M, and M stands for multiply. And then I have S, and S means to subtract. And then we have B, which is bring down the next number. You can do a little number sign if you want. And then we have R, repeat. All right, so now I'm going to start with question number 1. Just want to make sure you could see the video. Yep, okay. All right, so number one. Okay, remember, the decimal, every number has its own column. So we're going to start with 245 3/10 divided by 5. Now, at this point, if you don't know your 5s, I would be writing them down the side of your notebook. So we're going to pretend we don't know our 5s. So I'm going to go 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. And I'm going to stop there because I can only put one digit in each of our spots. So we're going to do this together. So as I do it, I want you to do it in your notebook. Okay? So first number in my dividend. Oh, nope, totally forgot. Decimal in the house. You must raise it to the roof. So place it up in your quotient. And if I have 1, 2, 3, 4 digits in my dividend, I better have 4 digits in my quotient. So now I could start. All right, so 5 divides into 2. I can't do that, so that's going to be 0. 0 times 5 is 0. I subtract from 2, and I'm left with 2. I have divided, I have multiplied, I have subtracted, and now I'm going to bring down my 4. 5 divides into 24 4 times. 4 times 5 is 20. I subtract, I'm left with 4. I'm going to bring down my next number, which is 5. 5 divides into 45 9 times. 9 times 5 is 45. I subtract, I'm left with 0. Now at this point, you might be tempted to stop because, well, you've got 0, it's worked out perfectly. But I still have this 3 right here. So I'm going to bring down my 3, and now I'm going to divide 3 by 5. So I can't do that, so that's going to be a 0. 0 times 5 is 0, and I subtract, and I'm left with 3. Now, this is why we cannot use partial quotient. Because I cannot leave this. I do not like it. I will not leave it. So I'm going to have to add a 0. And I'm going to bring that 0 down. And now I have 30. 5 divides into 30 6 times. 6 times 5 is 30. I subtract, I'm left with 0. And now I'm done because I have a 0 and I have no more numbers in my dividend. So my answer, my quotient, is 49 6/100. All right, let's try another one together. Okay, so now at any point in this time in this video, if you need to pause it, rewind it, whatever it might be, feel free to do so. I just want to make sure that you're following along with me and that you have what I have in your math journal. So let's try Let's pick our division house. Let's do 6 and 813 thousandths divided by 9. And I think because I don't know if I'm going to need some zeros, I think I'm going to do my 9s down by my dividend. So I'm going to start with 0, and then 9, 18, 27, 36, 45, 54, 63, 72, and 81. All right, now decimals in my house, I raise it to the roof. And now I could divide. Divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. So 9 divides into 6 0 times. 0 times 9 is 0. I subtract, and I'm left with 6. I'm going to bring down my next number, which is 8. 68. So that would be 7 times 9. 7 times 9 is 63. I subtract, I'm left with 5. I bring down my next number, which is a 1, and now my dividend that I'm chipping away at is 51. And 9 times 5 gets me close to 51. So 9 times 5 is 45. I have to do some regrouping. So this becomes a 4, this becomes 11. 11 minus 5 is 6. And then I bring down my last number, which is a 3. And now I have 63. And I know 9 times 7 is 63. And I subtract, and I'm left with 0. I have no more numbers in my dividend. I ended with a 0, so I feel pretty confident that my number or my quotient is going to be 0 and 757 thousandths. All right, so for the next 2 problems, you can either continue to follow along with me, or you could set up your problem with me and then pause the video and try and attack it on your own and then check yourself. It's up to you what you wish to do. So I'm going to turn the page because I'm out of space. But again, if you have space, keep going. And I'm just going to turn my page. So I'm just going to write those steps just down here just because I want to divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, and repeat. I just want to make sure that I don't forget them. All right, so number 3 is going to be this problem. Let's do 133 and 2/10 divided by 6. All right, so pause the video if you want to try this on your own, or you could continue along with me. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to raise my decimal to the roof. And if I'm not sure about my 6s, I'm going to write my facts. 0, 6. Wait a minute, let's move it down a little bit. 0, 6, 12, 18. 1, 2, 3, 4, 24, 5 is 30, 6 is 36, 7 is 42, 8 is 48, and 9 is 54. So my first number is a 1. So 6 cannot divide into 1, so that's going to be 0. 0 times 6 is 0. I subtract, I'm left with 1. I'm going to bring down my 3. 6 divides into 13 2 times, that's 12. I subtract, I'm left with 1. I'm going to bring down my 3. And I got 13 again, so that would be 2 again. and then 2 times 6 is 12. I subtract, I'm left with 1. And then I'm going to bring down my last number, which is a 2. And then 6 divides into 12 2 times. 6 times 12 is 2. I subtract, I'm left with 0. I'm done because I have no more numbers in my dividend, and I've ended on a 0. So my quotient is 22 and 2/10. All right, so at this point, you should have either solved it on your own or followed along with me. And now we're ready for our last and final peer practice question. Teacher-led practice question. So let's see. I just want to make sure I'm not repeating a number that we did. Nope, okay. Let's do 757 and 6/10 divided by 8. All right, so I'm going to skip count. Again, if you have your problem already set up and you want to try this fly solo, pause the video. If not, let's do it together. Skip counting by 8. 0, 8, 16, 24, 32, 4, let's see, 5 is 40, 6 is 48, 7 is 56, 8 is 64, 9 is 72. All right. Decimal in the house, raise it to the roof. And now I'm going to start with 7. 8 cannot divide into 7, so that's going to be 0. 0 times 8 is 0. I subtract. I'm left with 7. I have divided, I have multiplied, I have subtracted. Now I need to bring down. I'm going to bring down my 5. 8 divides into 75 9 times. 9 times 8 is 72. I subtract, I'm left with 3. I'm going to bring down my 7. And now my number is 37. 8 times 4 gets me close to 37, and that's 32. 4 times 8 is 32. I subtract, I'm left with 5. And then I'm going to bring down my last digit, which is a 6. And now my dividend is 56. So 8 divides into 56. 7 times 8 is 56. And I subtract, and I'm left with 0. I'm done because there's no numbers behind my 6. And I ended with a 0. So my dividend is going to be 94 and 7/10. All right, so at this part of the video, ladies and gentlemen, is I'm going to give you 4 problems that I'd like for you to try without me. And then I want you to press play and check yourself. So I'm going to give you all 4, and then you are going to pause the video and do them one at a time. Okay? So this will be number 5. All right, and this will be number 6. This will be number 7, and this will be number 8. So let's see. Let's do 62 and 80/100 divided by 4 for number 5. And number 6, let's do 324 and 6/10 divided by 3. Number 7, let's do 0 and 49/100 divided by 7. And number 8, let's do let's do excuse me. Let's do let's do 5, 55 and 35/100 divided by 5. All right, at this point, I want you to pause the video and I want you to work on these 4 problems. And then when you are done with the 4, then you may press play and check yourself. All right, at this point, you should be done with all 4 and you're ready to be checked. So decimal in the house for number 5, raise it to the roof. Now, I know my multiplication facts, so I'm not going to write my facts down this side, but you should have. And I'm going to put my little multiplication side there. And let's see, 4 divides into 6 one time. 4 times 1 is 4. I subtract, I'm left with 2. I bring down my next number, which is 2. And 4 divides into 22 5 times, because 4 times 5 is 20. I subtract, I'm left with 2. I'm going to bring down my next number, which is an 8. 4 times 7 is 28. I subtract, I'm left with 0. And now if you stopped here, then you are wrong because there's one more digit in my dividend. So I got to bring that down. And even though it's 0, I still have to divide it. 0 times 4 is 0. I subtract, I'm left with 0. So my quotient is 15 and 70/100. Number 6, I'm going to raise my decimal to the roof. And I'm going to start dividing. 3 divides into 3 one time. 1 times 3 is 3. I subtract. I'm left with 0. I bring down the 2. 3 cannot divide into 2, so that will be 0 times. 0 times 3 is 0. I subtract. I'm left with 2. I'm going to bring down the 4. 3 divides into 24 8 times. 8 times 3 is 24. I subtract, I'm left with 0. And if you stop here, you're not done because I still have the 6. And 3 divides into 6 2 times. 2 times 3 is 6. I'm left with 0. So my quotient is, for number 6, 108.2, or 108 and 2/10. Number 7, I'm going to raise my decimal to the roof, and I'm going to start dividing. 7 cannot divide into 0, so that's going to be 0 times. 0 times 7 is 0. I subtract, I'm left with, obviously, 0. I'm going to bring down my 4. 7 cannot divide into 4, so that's going to be another 0. So 0 times 7 is 0. I subtract. I'm left with 4. I'm going to bring down my 9. And 7 times 7 is 49. And I subtract, and I'm left with 0. I am done because I have 0 left over. And there are no numbers in my dividend anymore. So number 7's answer is 0 and 7/100. And our last problem, number 8, I'm going to raise my decimal to the roof. 5 divides into 5 one time. 1 times 5 is 5. I subtract. I'm left with 0. I bring down my next number, which is 5. And now, guess what? 5 divides into 5 one more time. 1 times 5 is 5. I subtract. I'm left with 0. I need to bring down my next number, which is a 3. And 5 divides into 3 0 times. 0 times 5 is 0. I'm left with 3. And I'm going to bring down my last number, and it's a 5, and now it's 35. And 7 times 5 is 35. I subtract. I'm left with 0. I am done because there are no numbers in my dividend, and there is a 0 in as my remainder. So number 8 is 11 7/100. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of my video. At this point, when you are done, you're going to ask the substitute for the exit ticket, and I would like for you to work on the exit ticket and turn it into the class basket so I can see it on Wednesday when I get back. And you may start your homework, and if you finish that and there's still more class time left over, then you will also need to be working on your passports for success. And I hope that you have a good day, and I will see you tomorrow.